we want to talk about agile project management. And so what we want to cover today, if we can, would be a brief introduction to Lean startup methodology. That's not agile at all, but I thought that's great to know a bit about it before jumping into agile. My audio is coming back from one of your microphones. Could you turn your microphones off? Testing. It's okay now, thank you. Okay, and then we want to talk about agile, what it is and how to use it. And then we want to just understand a bit more about agile. We want to compare two agile methodologies. Later, not today, we like to talk about Scrum and Kanban to know them more. So how to do them properly. Okay, so a new thing I just want to experiment today is that I was thinking about spending a couple of hours to make the best presentation I can. Then I thought, why shouldn't I use things that people have created using, I don't know, tens of hours, and things I found I really liked. So I want to experiment if you would really like it. You know, if you would like the content they offer in small amount of time. So let's see. So what Lean startup addresses, talking about Lean startup first, it's mainly focused on the risks of a startups. So when you compare startups compare startups with established companies, the things which are really different are the risks among startups, the limited knowledge we have about the product, about the market, about everything, and the limited resources that we have. And these are the things that I believe Lean startup really addresses. So let's see what Lean startup is. Wants to play. Uh-oh. You have the audio, right?
Except it's cleaner, it's faster, and it's about product development and not app development. Lean startup framework and being lean is the de facto framework that startups today use to test and grow their startup business. The term lean, as you know it, comes from this book. It was written by a man named Eric.
Oh, let me change my connection. I think it's not working well. Sorry.
Basically meant that they tried to make a very simplified process of background. The lean startup.
Sorry guys, I tested it lots of times. I don't know why.
Is it a YouTube thing that you could send to us to each watch separately and come back?
Just an easier thing would be that I can share the presentation with you, Ethan, and you can share it with us. Could you?
Yeah.
And then I can talk on it. Okay. So
if you could even just share me the URL of the YouTube, and then I'll hand it back to you after. So I think I have a better connection.
Okay. It's not loading. None of them are loading. So give me a second.
Okay. Yeah, share the presentation with me then, if you have a bunch of videos.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to share. If
it
allows me. So. Okay. Maybe it's because I'm running Zoom besides the YouTube, because it's working all the time.
I shared the video. Everybody can turn off their audio and watch it, and then come back.
Let me see if I can share it, because I think
the link to the Google Sheet is ready. So I just show it here, and Ethan, could you share the presentation?
Yeah, totes.
Because it has a couple of videos and some other slides. Thank you.
I'm gonna play. We're gonna see if this works. Let me know if it doesn't.
5 minutes. It's basically like 6-minute abs, except it's leaner, it's faster, and it's about product development and not ab development. The Lean Startup Framework and being lean is the de facto framework that startups today use to test and grow their startup businesses. So the term lean as you know it comes from this book and is written by a man named Eric Ries. The name actually comes from lean manufacturing, something that Toyota did. Basically meant that they tried to make a very simplified process of manufacturing. The lean startup version obviously is for startups. Now, what is the book all about? It's about a framework and a way of thinking that can mitigate your risks going forward as you pursue your startup and increase the likelihood of finding an idea or a feature or a product that sticks. Now, the first thing that Lean wants you to know is that when you go out there and launch your business idea, you're launching into 100% unknown, absolute uncertainty. Now you might think, well, I have talked to my mom about this idea and she said it was great. Also, my best friend said it was great, and I read Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Now, this is where the vast majority of people are wrong, and it's the first lesson we learned from Lean. In order to know whether or not your idea is any good, you have to get out there and test it. Get out of the building, as they call it. If you're just sitting here right now thinking about your idea in your head, it's just that, it's just your head. Even if you think you know your customers, know your market, and you know how they're gonna respond, you actually don't. You do not know for a fact. When we're in the shower, when we're thinking about our idea, boy, does it sound brilliant. But the reality is that most of our ideas are actually terrible. What the great Eric Ries is actually trying to say is that the only way an idea can improve and gain legs is by achieving what we call validated learning. Validated learning is learning that we know is true because we've tested it, whereas learning itself, we don't know if it's true because it's not tested. You can research all day long, reading primary and secondary reports, but how do you know for 100% fact whether or not someone in a buying type situation is going to buy what you're gonna try to sell? Now, the best way of getting that validated learning that we so crave in the Lean Startup Framework is by building MVP experiments, which are basically miniature versions of your first product that we push out rapidly with a minimum amount of time and effort just to see how customers react. Why is it that we have to do it quickly? Well, because when you run an MVP experiment, there's really only one of two things that can happen. One, your idea is validated and you get some really great information about how to improve it, or two, it just straight up fails and you find out that no, people are not interested in your product, at least in this current version. So if you spend a month making an MVP, you push it out there and you find out that nobody actually wants what you're trying to sell, it took you a month to figure that out. That's one data point, basically. But if you took a week to make an MVP, you could have tested 4 different ideas within the same time frame that it took you to test that first one. More tests means more data, which means more validated learning. Now, because it's only that binary outcome, you either succeed or you fail, you might as well fail as quickly as you can, because any time spent up until that point that wasn't absolutely necessary was entirely a waste of time. Hence why we call it lean. We cut out everything that is not necessary in order to figure out whether or not our idea is any good. It's a way of minimizing the effort, resources, and time it takes to figure out whether or not your product should even be built in the first place. And the motto is, and I love this, stop building things that people do not want. For those of you out there that knew Lean, well, that was a refresher. And if you didn't know Lean, look at how much time I just saved you.
Open your microphones, and I just want us to discuss for 2-3 minutes about what do you think that Lean Startup method applies to us and why? Just share your idea. I just want us to talk a bit about it.
Yes.
And why? Why do you think that's the case?
Because it applies. Because I think, to be honest, it applies everywhere. Not just in startups, but in life as well. I keep telling people who are in the dating scene, fail fast. Like don't avoid the hard topics. Tell what your weirdest parts of you are. Find out what their weirdest parts of them are. So that if it doesn't work out, you can not work out fast.
So you like it because you want to get to a goal fast, and there are so much risks in it. You want to test fast, right? You want to learn fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other ideas? Saina, you want to share your idea?
Yeah, I was thinking about us being lean, like in the home healthcare, we actually really are. And as we saw, yeah, and on our the basic application that we have, we kind of are actually, I think. We're just testing and trying. We're not really giving new things in testing, but yeah, we're trying things and we want to just implement them fast and get the reason to get the what they cause to the users, and so get the results fast.
Okay.
I have two issues I want to bring up though. One is that how do you I want to be lean, but we also to do a test with part-time workers, it's never a week. Almost kind of your tests end up being long just because you don't have the manpower to do a short test. I think that's one issue. The other issue is that there are some places where we have features that we've tested and that people like, and then how do you what's the next step? How do you go from people like this to okay, let's flesh it out then? That's the thing I don't really know. When you if you put it out there, you put out the MVP, but we never get past the MVP. If people like it, then we go into the next one, and we don't put in the tests and the stuff afterwards. Okay. That never seems to be talked about in the process. Too.
So let's not discuss about it more. Let's not discuss about it more. That's what I wanted to hear. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you for your ideas and issues. So the key point in this. So this is the model Lean Startup says. You have an idea or hypothesis, build the prototype, an MVP, experiment it so that you measure and get some data and learn about your hypothesis that way. That's a cycle. And the key to this is to iterate fast as you can. So we need some teams where those teams are usually on the building, experimenting part, I think. We need some teams which have processes, which can finish a project fast and can adapt to a new one fast, because it's iterating fast. Any iteration is one project. One process should fit all of those, and so that process should adapt fast. And each iteration should be fast. So that's what you want. So let's go forward. So what is Agile? Agile is a framework. It's originally a framework to develop software products. So it's important, as its name suggests, it's want to adapt fast, and it wants to develop fast. That's what it wants to do. It's originally about software products, but it's also applied to other projects. So let's see what Agile actually is. So this video should be run by speed 1.25. The man speaks so slowly. Really bored. If you want, you can try 1.5. I like 1.5 more, but I thought you might not like that. This one is 12 minutes, but it would be done in 9 minutes if you just do one. Yeah, go on.
Hello, I'm Mark. I help organizations write software more efficiently, and often this means helping teams understand what it means to develop in an agile way. In this video, we're going to answer the question, what is agile? And just as important, we'll discuss what agile is not. Many things get called agile, especially by people who are trying to sell you something. If you ask the makers of paper products, they will tell you that to be agile, you need to write your user stories on the sticky note cards that they just happen to sell. If you ask a consultant, you'll likely hear that it's a methodology for developing software that your organization can learn if you buy their services. And if you talk to the makers of orthopedic shoes, you'll be told that the key to being agile is meetings where everyone stands up. So the more comfortable your shoes, the more agile your team. The actual definition of agile is found in the Agile Manifesto. The manifesto makes it clear that agile isn't a methodology. It isn't a specific way of doing software development. It isn't a framework or a process. In fact, most of the things that are marketed as agile tend to miss the point of what agile actually is. Agile is a set of values and principles. Much of the discussion around agile has to do with following different practices, using various methodologies, and even developing with specific tools. While these things might help a team that's trying to follow agile, they aren't agile in and of themselves. For example, while a team may find that having a daily stand-up meeting is helpful, the stand-up is only agile to the extent that it is the result of a team following the agile principles and values. When you understand this, it's easy to see that agile is really a collection of beliefs that teams can use for making decisions about how to do the work of developing software. While this means the term agile gets subjected to a great deal of abuse when people claim that this or that is the way to be agile, it also means that if you truly understand what agile is, it's surprisingly flexible. Agile doesn't make decisions for you. Instead, it gives you a foundation that teams can use to make decisions that result in better software development. The Agile Manifesto is only 68 words and very simply says that we can develop software better by valuing the items on the left side of the list more than the items on the right side. The Agile Manifesto says we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. In addition to the values of the manifesto, there are 12 principles that support the values. Once again, the principles are very general and are less about telling you what to do than they are about giving you the ability to make a good decision in a particular situation. The 12 principles are: number 1, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Number 2, welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Number 3, deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference for the shorter timescale. Number 4, business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Number 5, build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Number 6, the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversations. Number 7, working software is the primary measure of progress. Number 8, agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Number 9, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Number 10, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. Number 11, the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Number 12, at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Since Agile is a collection of values and principles, its real utility is in giving people a common foundation for making decisions about the best way to develop software. For example, consider a new project that is in discussion on how to get requirements from the business owner. The suggested approach is to require that the business owner write down all the requirements and sign off on them before beginning the work. A team that is following Agile would say, while that might work, isn't that inconsistent with our belief that we should value customer collaboration over contract negotiation? And doesn't it violate our principle that says the developers should be working with the business owners every day? How can we make this decision in a way that is consistent with our values and the principles we follow? Or consider a developer who's working on implementing a feature for the business owner. The developer realizes he needs a database to make the feature work. The first idea that comes to mind is to stop work on the feature and build out a robust database layer that will handle the needs of the feature and provide support for other development that will be needed later. If the developer believes in the Agile values and is trying to follow the Agile principles, they would think, but building out this layer means I would have to delay delivering what the customer can see as valuable software they can use. If I can find a way to build just what is necessary to deliver this feature, it will better align with my principles. When you have a team that is following Agile, they will be making hundreds of decisions each week in the way described. That is what it means to be Agile, making each decision based on the principles and values that the team has decided to follow. The decision-making process matters. You can't try to short-circuit things by taking decisions made by another team and just blindly doing what they decided to do. Another team may make decisions based on the Agile principles and values that end up with a particular way of doing their work. Simply trying to mimic another team's actions and practices won't make your team Agile. After World War II, Melanesian islanders were observed trying to bring cargo planes and their supplies from the sky by mimicking the practices they had seen performed during the war. This included clearing the forest to make a landing strip, complete with full-sized planes made out of straw. They also created structures that mimicked a control tower out of bamboo and had someone sit in it wearing headphones fashioned from coconuts. It's easy to fall into similar type of cargo cult mentality when it comes to Agile. The things that are easy to notice in a highly functional Agile team are the practices they are using. But the practices a team uses are the result of following Agile principles and values. It's less important what practices a team happens to be using than why they are using it. In fact, as time goes by, a good Agile team is probably going to change and refine their practices that they use. A team might start with Scrum and later find that Kanban is a better fit for delivering value to their customers. A team might begin standing up on daily meetings and later decide it works better for everyone to stay sitting down. Another team might start out using planning poker to estimate story size, and later do away with story points and simply split stories to be approximately the same size. That isn't to say it's useless to look at practices being used by teams that are performing well, but you can't go looking for practices to make you Agile. Your principles and values are what will make you Agile. You have to look for practices that support your principles and values. The way you select your practices is what determines whether you are being Agile or not. If a practice is being selected because it looks like a good way to follow Agile principles, it's probably a good place to start. The same practice can work poorly for a team if it's selected for the wrong reasons. So what is Agile? Agile is a set of values and principles. How does a team become Agile? They make their decisions based on Agile values and principles. The decision-making process is how a team becomes Agile. The values and principles have enough flexibility to allow teams in a wide variety of organizations to develop software in the way that works best for their particular situation, while providing enough direction to help a team continually move toward their full potential.
Okay, so we cannot get to Kanban versus Scrum that we wanted. On the other hand, I would like to talk a bit about Agile. I know a couple of you didn't follow the second half because it was boring, but I want to ask what do you think about its beliefs? So first, did we get it that these are some beliefs and principles, and values, no practices? So that's the reason why I always say that we're not running actual Scrum, but I believe we are Agile, and we're not actually running actual Kanban in our sales funnel, but it is Agile but I think these values and beliefs are kind of new to us. We didn't talk about them ever, So what do you think about them? You just heard them.
So I have a question. It seems like following agile principles might fall into Nash equilibria very easily. If you're always building just what you need, you will never build the larger thing that might make the overall process faster in a large sense. Like in the example that was shown, when do you build that network layer that helps other people build faster? Does it ever get built? If not, then you're actually using more time in the overall scheme.
So one of the principles, I think, was give me a second, I load it. It was pointing attention to right design and right software techniques would enhance agility. That's one of the things. So you can find that, and that's what actually shows you that you should do that.
So how does that fit with the example where he didn't build the software layer, the database layer?
So it should okay. So the way to implement it in an agile way is to